Greetings, YouTube. I broke out the autumnal colors. I have an autumnal holder on my pumpkin sweatshirt. So I was watching a Let's Play recently, and it reminded me of the film Serenity. I'm going to be blasting spoilers all over the place for this film. So if you have not seen the film Serenity, which is the film inspired by the series Firefly, stop watching this video. Go see the series. Go watch the movie. They're both a hell of a lot of fun. Though I was distraught today, I've been watching the series Chuck, and Alec Baldwin is in Chuck. He also plays Jane in both Firefly and Serenity, and I was distraught to find out that he is in fact ultra arch conservative and actually writes for Breitbart. Breitbart is a water carrier, a gateway to white nationalism. So yeah, it's going to shade my enjoyment of Chuck from this point on, because I really like his character of Casey in the series Chuck. He's quite endearing. But yeah, not happy that the actor himself is helping funnel people towards white nationalism. Not good. But the Let's Play I was watching got me thinking of Serenity. And I found myself pondering some of the main points of the storyline. There is a big secret which is locked inside River Tam's head, and the powers that be would like that big secret to go very, very dark, and they're willing to kill to have that achieve that end, and willing to pretty much kill anybody at all, anyone, women, children, priests, doesn't matter. They will kill them just to make sure that this secret does not ever get out of her head. Of course, it does get out of her head, and the characters find themselves going to a lost planet. Now, it's hard to lose a planet. Now, remember that all of the planets that are visited in the Firefly series and in Serenity are in the same system. It is absurd that one system has that many Earth-type planets. Absolutely absurd. I didn't realize that initially when I started watching the series. I didn't. I thought they were different star systems and they just had jump drives. Okay, they were close star systems that were close to each other. Stars sometimes cluster. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But no, they're all in the same system, and that's just dumb. That's lazy writing. Use a jump drive. It's not that big a deal. It's just a MacGuffin. Because it gets you from point A to point B. It's like where they had transporters in Star Trek because they didn't want to have scenes of people getting in and out of the damn shuttles all the time. So they invented the transporters to save them all that crap time that the director thought was Gene Roddenberry thought would be boring. So yeah, you just could have had jump drives. Different systems make a lot more sense, but they didn't. All right, you can't hide a planet. You can't. Modern telescopes that you could buy off the shelf for your average person. Heck, ones that will let you use your cell phone with them. Okay? Will pick up almost every planet in our system. Particularly one that's big enough to, have a 1G gravity and everything. It's not some teeny little planetoid like Pluto. No. Pluto's the size of Australia. All right, no. These are planets big enough to have their own have a 1G gravitational force. So they're big planets. You can't hide them. Not to mention you'd be able to pick it up from orbits because the orbits of the planets themselves are affected by each other. So yeah, you can't hide a planet. So that's dumb. But somehow they hide a planet. And the reason they hide the planet is that they had conducted an experiment on that planet. And the experiment was rather simple. You see, the government is very authoritarian in this setting. And they want to make sure that all of their citizens are nice, straight arrows, you're following the rules, you're doing what you're told, you're not asking questions, you're not looking around anywhere, you're just doing your thing that the government wants you to do. Okay? So they're looking for very docile, obedient citizens. So they decide that the best thing they could do is come up with a chemical that you could then diffuse throughout the population that would make them nice and compliant and happy and just do what they're told. First of all, the logistics of that are mind-boggling. I don't think your average person quite understands the scope of an atmosphere and how much that would require to diffuse a chemical to have any effect. You know, I mean, if it's as rare as noble gases, then it's not going to do anything. You know, but even if you had dispersal units in the settlements, people that were outside the settlement, because that's going to happen, would discover they are no longer affected by this. Then the whole thing starts to unravel. So the very concept that they would do this through a dispersal, or even by putting it into a water supply, which is better, you still are going to have a problem that there are going to be people who aren't affected by it all the time, and they're going to notice a difference, and that's going to start to unravel the whole system. But the idea was they did this test on Miranda, and the test went very, very bad. 90% of the population became absolutely catatonic. Totally. They became so indifferent to everything. It even overcame the animal urge to drink and eat. They just sat there and died. For a chemical to overcome the animal need for liquid and food is very powerful. And the other 10% that didn't just sit there and go, I'm going to die now, they became psychotic and began to rip themselves apart, became absolute psychotic madmen and madwomen, and became the nexus for the marauders. And I've always hated the fact that the marauders were supposed to be that psychotic, that they would rend their flesh and rip off their ears and skin, and then they would rape anything that moved, and they would eat their victims, alive and things like that. You couldn't run a spaceship. They would just stay on Miranda, eventually consuming each other until they were gone. And if they were not psychotic enough to do that, but still a danger, they're just live fire exercises for the authoritarian Navy. That's it. That's all they are. They aren't a threat. You just go out and you just shoot them down. You go hunting. It's not like it's not like these guys are capable of planning. The military is. So yeah, there's some major holes in this storyline. But I started thinking about this. It was something that always bugged me. Testing. And right now we're in the process of trying to test numerous vaccines for COVID-19. And there are just the standard tests you do, and there are also human trial tests where people are deliberately being given the virus to see if the vaccine works. And since the government in question is deeply authoritarian, when you think you have the chemical that you want, that the one's going to make a nice, docile, little obedient citizen, you grab a couple of dozen prisoners, because they don't care, they don't think of them as humans. You grab a couple of dozen prisoners, and you test the chemical on them. Say you get a dozen prisoners in there, you give the chemical to each of them, and 9 of them just stop. They just cease to move. They just breathe and then die after 5 or 6 days. And the other ones, they go insane. They destroy anything they can lay their hands on. They're ripping their ears off. They're gouging their eyes out. They're tearing their flesh off. Which is when you move the project from the sociology department of the government to the weapons testing part of the government. Because you now just take this thing and you drop it on your enemy and you sit back and you wait. And the enemy is either docile and dead or insane and killing the docile ones. And the insane ones that are left are going to be easy to mop up by the military. They didn't test these chemicals, and they didn't test the chemicals in the atmosphere that they were going to be employed in, assuming, say, there was a chemical reaction. They had the chemical work, but they put it into the Miranda atmosphere and something happened. You tell me they didn't test it on Miranda in a controlled trial with the atmosphere in question, making sure you had exactly the same mix that you were going to have? I mean, I realize that Joss Whedon is a creepy dude, but now that I think about it, I didn't realize he was so dumb. This is just sloppy. Now that I think about it, man, it's sloppy. So, yeah, I found myself disappointed in retrospect with a film that I otherwise really do enjoy because I love the characters. The characters are so damn good. They're so great. They really are. I love them all. I even like Jane, even though now I still like Jane, even though I know that Alec Baldwin is a red cap. So, did you guys notice this about Serenity? Am I a late bloomer on this one? Did I just not pick up the fact that this chemical would have been tested and the test would have found these flaws and then they would have just weaponized it and used it in the army or a branch of the military's call in the future? I don't know. Maybe it's the Marines or the Navy or something. It's always interesting. They call space ships navies. Always, that's kind of a little weird to me, but okay. So let's talk about the plot holes in Serenity. What are the ones that you noticed?